The center of conflict shifts to Myanmar, the KNAB, Meitei insurgents, and the evolving struggle for territorial integrity. The conflict in Manipur, a state in northeast India, has long been a region of political and ethnic tension, with various insurgent groups vying for autonomy and self-determination. Over the years, the struggle for independence and territorial rights has escalated into a cross-border issue, with the shifting center of conflict now moving into Myanmar, particularly in the Kuki majority regions. This change has significant implications for the KNAB, the Meitei insurgent groups such as the People's Liberation Army, PLA, United National Liberation Front, UNLF, the Kongle Yawol Kanalup, KYKL, and the broader political landscape of Manipur. 1. The legacy of the Anglo-Kuki War and the struggle for Kuki identity. The roots of the current conflict can be traced back to the early 20th century when the Kuki people, an ethnic group native to the hills of Manipur, western Myanmar, and the Chittagong Hill tracts of Bangladesh, rose in resistance against British colonial rule. This resistance, known as the Anglo-Kuki War or the Kuki Uprising, took place between 1917 and 1919. This war, often overlooked by the broader historical narrative, is crucial in understanding the current struggles faced by the Kuki community. The Kuki people were not merely victims of colonial oppression. They were active participants in defending their lands and cultures. Unlike other tribes in northeast India, some of whom were seen as collaborators with the British, the Kuki fought back against the colonial forces. This fact remains a source of pride within the Kuki community, who view themselves as the true guardians and owners of the hill regions of Manipur, Myanmar, and Bangladesh. The historical role of the Kuki in India's freedom struggle is often downplayed, despite their brave fight against the British colonial forces. The Kuki, as part of India's freedom movement, played a significant role in resisting British rule, which directly ties their actions to India's broader struggle for independence. This narrative is crucial for understanding the context of the present-day conflict and the Kuki community's rightful claims over the territories they have historically inhabited. However, the history of the Kuki people has been marginalized, and their contribution to the region's history has been erased or misrepresented by various communities, particularly in Manipur. The Meitei, the dominant ethnic group in the valley of Manipur, and other tribal groups have long sought to subdue or erase the Kuki's glorious history. Despite this, the Kuki have held fast to their heritage and continue to defend their territorial claims in the present day. 2. The Meitei insurgency and the shift in strategy. In recent years, the Meitei insurgent groups, such as the PLA, UNLF, and KYKL, have played a significant role in the ongoing conflict in Manipur. These groups, which once sought full independence for Manipur from India, have faced increasing pressure from both internal and external forces. The imposition of president's rule in Manipur and the growing involvement of Myanmar's military have further complicated the political landscape. The Meitei insurgents, having faced the harsh realities of the Myanmar military junta's repressive tactics, initially sought refuge in Myanmar. They were given shelter by Myanmar's military government, which backed their operations against India, largely as a way to create instability in the region and gain leverage against the Indian government. However, after facing increasing attacks and setbacks in Myanmar, the Meitei groups had to reassess their situation. The harsh conditions under the junta government, the threat of annihilation, and the growing military pressure from both Myanmar and the KNAB led these insurgents to shift their tactics. Rather than seeking full independence, these Meitei groups, including the PLA, UNLF, and KYKL, pivoted toward a short-term strategy to enter into a ceasefire agreement with the Indian government. This change was intended to allow them a chance to regroup, rebuild their forces, and continue their operations in Manipur, particularly targeting the Kuki communities. The agreement with the Indian government, while temporarily halting their pursuit of full independence, allowed them to redirect their focus on carrying out attacks on the Kuki people and other communities in the region. This tactical shift to focus on peace talks and temporary ceasefire agreements with India, while simultaneously continuing their militant activities in Manipur, reflected their long-term strategy of undermining the Kuki territories and interests. The ceasefire agreement, though often presented as a path toward peace, has, in reality, allowed these insurgent groups to further their agenda of destabilizing the Kuki-controlled regions.
The shift of tactics was clearly designed to create short-term peace, while continuing to wage war against the Kuki community. 3. The KNAB's role under the People's Defense Forces, PDF. While the Meitei insurgent groups have shifted their focus to territorial integrity, the KNAB has emerged as a significant player in the ongoing struggle, particularly under the umbrella of the People's Defense Forces, PDF, in Myanmar. The KNAB, a militant group fighting for the protection of Kuki territories, has aligned itself with the PDF, a coalition of democratic forces fighting against Myanmar's military junta. The KNAB's involvement with the PDF is rooted in a shared opposition to authoritarianism and colonialism, both historically and in the present day. By collaborating with the PDF, the KNAB has gained support in their fight against both the Myanmar military and the encroachment of Meitei forces in the Kuki majority hills. The KNAB's alliance with the PDF has proven essential in defending the Kuki territories, but it has also come at a high cost. The KNAB has faced numerous casualties in their battles against Myanmar's military, and their struggle has become part of the broader fight for democracy and self-determination in Myanmar. As the KNAB continues to defend Kuki lands and cultural heritage, their involvement with the PDF has garnered international attention, especially from human rights organizations condemning Myanmar's military dictatorship. However, the KNAB's role is not just a battle for regional autonomy. It is a continuation of their fight for survival, as they face opposition not only from Myanmar's military, but also from insurgent groups like the Meitei PLA, who have temporarily found shelter under the junta's protection. 4. The devastating suffering of PLA, Unlf, and the shift in ideology. The ongoing conflict has resulted in immense suffering for the Meitei insurgent groups, particularly the PLA, Unlf, and KYKL. Originally, these groups aimed for an independent Manipur, free from Indian rule. They sought to establish a separate state, and their ideology was rooted in a vision of self-determination. However, after years of suffering and the growing military pressure from both the Myanmar junta and the KNAB, the Meitei insurgents have been forced to reevaluate their position, as Myanmar's military launched devastating attacks on insurgent groups along its borders. Many Meitei groups found themselves no longer safe in Myanmar. The Myanmar military's brutality and the lack of security in the region pushed these groups back to Manipur. However, their return was not the same as their departure. The Meitei insurgents no longer sought full independence for Manipur, but focused instead on the integrity of their land and people. This shift in ideology marks a significant turning point in the conflict. The Meitei insurgents' new focus on safeguarding Manipur's territorial integrity is a direct response to the growing threat from Myanmar and the KNAB. No longer confident in the idea of an independent Manipur, the PLA, UNLF, and KYKL have turned their attention to securing the state's borders.
While the desire for an independent Manipur remains in some circles, the immediate goal is now the protection of the people and territories of Manipur from the encroaching forces. The shift in the Meitei insurgents' ideology is not merely a tactical move, it is a reflection of the harsh realities they face on the ground. The devastating suffering they have endured, both at the hands of Myanmar's military and through the pressure from the KNAB, has forced them to reconsider their original goals. Now, the focus is on ensuring the safety and security of the region, a shift that may open the door for future negotiations, but also complicates the already fragile relationship between the Meitei and Kuki communities. Fifth, expansionism and the threat to the Kuki community. A recent development that poses a serious threat to the Kuki community is the sanctioning of 28.99 crore by the Ministry of Home Affairs to the Meitei insurgent groups, such as the PLA and Unlf, for the establishment of camps in the hills of Manipur. This is seen as part of the Meitei expansionism agenda, as it seeks to expand control over the Kuki majority areas and secure strategic locations in the hills surrounding the Imphal Valley. These camps are not simply places of temporary shelter. They serve as operational bases for further militant activities, particularly targeting the Kuki communities. This expansionism is viewed as a direct threat to the Kuki people's land, identity, and culture. It signals a new phase in the conflict, where the Meitei groups, backed by the Indian government, push for greater control over Kuki territories, while the Kuki community remains steadfast in defending their ancestral land. The Kuki people view this as an existential threat and are committed to protecting their land with unwavering determination, ready to defend it with everything they have. Conclusion: a complex struggle for territorial integrity and self-determination. The ongoing conflict in Manipur has evolved significantly, with the center of gravity now shifting to Myanmar. The KNAB, in its alliance with the People's Defense Forces, has taken a leading role in defending the Kuki territories, while the Meitei insurgent groups, once focused on independence, have shifted their attention to the protection of Manipur's territorial integrity for short-term strategy. In the future, they're likely to change back to their original strategy.
This shift in ideology, fueled by the devastating losses and the growing external pressures, reflects the broader struggles of these communities. For the Kuki, it is a battle for survival, identity, and territorial rights. For the Meitei, it is an attempt to safeguard the land they call home, while grappling with the realization that their previous dreams of independence may no longer be achievable in the face of external threats.
As the situation continues to unfold, the possibility of a negotiated settlement seems distant. However, the changing dynamics, particularly the shift in the Meitei insurgents' stance, may pave the way for new discussions, and perhaps a new understanding of how to resolve the long-standing conflict that has plagued Manipur and its people for decades.
Disclaimer: the videos or articles used in this content are not owned by Zalengam Media and are used under YouTube's fair use policy for the purpose of awareness, education, and information dissemination. We encourage all viewers to subscribe to Zalengam Media for further updates and to stay informed about the developments in the region.